You're watching NewsView. And now, from Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, it's NewsView.
Hello and welcome to NewsView, Champaign-Urbana, Illinois' public access newscast. Tonight I start off with IllinoisHomepage.net, WCIA.com story. Champaign County, Channel 3 says one woman faces charges for DUI after an accident. Happened Wednesday just before 9 p.m. on Interstate 74 eastbound. Police say 21-year-old Ashley Thornton of 50 was driving about 80 to 90 miles per hour in the passing lane when she tried to overtake another vehicle by driving onto the shoulder. Her car ran off the road into a median before heading back onto the roadway and hitting another car. It then flipped multiple times and came to a rest in the westbound lanes. The car struck by Thornton's vehicle also lost control and ended up on the shoulder of the westbound lanes. Both drivers and passengers in the second car were taken to the hospital for minor injuries. And in a little sweeter news, Hostess is reporting record demand for Twinkies and other cakes, according to FoxBusiness.com. Twinkies and other cakes from Hostess brands are flying off the shelves since going back on sale Monday, with the bakery reporting sales that are even 7 times greater than historic levels. After an 8-month hiatus, the bakery officially made its comeback this week amid much fanfare and a large-scale marketing blitz. So far, record demand has sales coming in at 3 to 6 times greater than production capacity, the company said, even though factories are all operating at maximum levels. Hostess also noted that numerous retailers said the bakery's product sold out within hours of being displayed. For the first 2 weeks of its comeback, Hostess expects 50 million Twinkies and 35 million cupcakes to be on store shelves, while new orders have been placed for another 100 million units of just those 2 cakes. Hostess President Rich Sabin says, quote, "We knew this comeback would be historic and interest would be significant, but the demand has far outpaced even our most ambitious projections." He said this as a statement, and that, quote, "We are running our bakeries at the fullest capacity and are doing everything possible to make sure we are fulfilling orders to our retail partners as quickly as possible so they can replenish their shelves for eager consumers," unquote. Sabin also asked consumers to be patient, assuring them that Hostess is working to resupply its customers as soon as possible. The initial product line being made at Hostess 4 factories in Kansas, Illinois, Indiana, and Georgia includes Twinkies, cupcakes, ding-dongs, donuts, ho-hos, zingers, fruit pies, and mini muffins. Hostess said customers may not find all the products at all the stores right away. Former Hostess brands Drake's, now in the hands of Little Debbie maker McKee Foods, is also nearing a comeback. Drake's, whose products include devil dogs, yodels, ring dings, and coffee cakes, expects its cakes to hit store shelves later this summer or earlier in this fall. And according to WHEC.com, News 10 in Rochester, New York. They say a woman said she had no warning that someone was going to search her car after she left to catch her flight. So the woman contacted News 10 NBC. They found out it happened to her because she valet parked the car. Those are the only cars that get inspected there. So if security feels it is necessary to search some cars in the name of safety, why not search all of them? Lori Ikaza walked to her waiting car at the Greater Rochester International Airport after returning from a trip, and that's when she found it. A notice saying that her car was inspected after she left for her flight. She said, quote, "I was furious. They never even mentioned it to me when I booked the valet or when I picked up the car or when I dropped it off," unquote. Akuza's car was inspected by valet attendants on orders from the TSA, but why only valet parked cars? That's what News 10 NBC wanted to ask the TSA director about, and they reached him by phone. Brickley Breen asked, quote, "Are the cars in the short-term lots and long-term lots getting searched as well?" unquote. John McCaffrey of TSA said, quote, "No. Those vehicles that are in the garage, short-term, long-term parking, even if they carry large amounts of explosives, they would not cause damage to the front of the airport. But for those who use the valet, the car could be there for half an hour or an hour, so there is vulnerability," unquote. News 10 NBC went to the valet parking, and one of the attendants showed us the notice they put in the cars. We asked, quote, "You're required, they tell you, you have to search the car?" unquote. Valet parking attendant Frank DeTore said, quote, unquote, "I have to do it." We also noted a large sign that alerts customers that their vehicles will be inspected. The sign is on the kiosk window. Akuza says it was not there when she dropped off her car. Quote, "I think the public should be aware of the fact that their car is going to be searched. They should be informed of it," unquote. And another story from dailymail.co.uk, the Mail Online. Russia's Bolshoi Theater suffers new tragedy after violinist dies falling into orchestra pit. A senior violinist, Russia's Bolshoi Theater, at Russia's Bolshoi Theater, violinist has died following a freak accident when he fell from the stage into the orchestra pit. Viktor Sedov, 65, who had performed at the world-famous theater in Moscow for 4 decades, died in a hospital as a result of his injuries following the fall on Tuesday. Bolshoi spokesman Katrina Novakova said Mr. Sedov, who played in the second violins, was a much-loved member of the theater and was known for his sense of humor and extraordinary erudition. She told the AFP news agency Viktor Sedov, who had worked almost 40 years at the Bolshoi, fell into the orchestra pit Tuesday and died Wednesday in hospital as a result of his injuries. In January of this year, an artistic director at Bolshoi nearly lost his sight when he had acid thrown in his face outside his Moscow home. Sergey Filin, 42, suffered third-degree burns to his face and neck in the attack. However, dancers and staff at the Belushi Theater suggested that Mr. Filin may have staged the attack himself. Last week, the theater's director, General Anatoly Iskhanov, was fired and replaced by Vladimir Yurin, who previously headed Moscow's Stanislavski Musical Theater. Russian Culture Minister Vladimir Medinsky said that the 61-year-old Iskhanov, who led the Belushi for nearly 13 years, was dismissed because of a difficult situation at the theater. And you are watching NewsView. I'm Michael Badger. We will return with more NewsView right after this. And according to AccuWeather.com, Boston to Chicago, more than 100 million are feeling the stifling heat. According to Alex Sosnowski, expert senior meteorologist at AccuWeather. He says, plain and simple, this week may feel the worst of any week for this summer in the Northeast and parts of the Midwest. The region will be a virtual sauna bath. High daytime and nighttime temperatures, high humidity, intense sunshine, and lack of wind will make the area seem like the middle of the tropics. And it will feel Thursday in southern to central Illinois, Indiana, and parts of Ohio between 105 and 110 degrees. That's what it will feel like. And we are right, we're in that area in Champaign, Illinois. And yes, it's hot, but maybe, well, it's not as hot as last June of 2012. And you can read more about that at AccuWeather.com. And according to WHBF CBS 4 News, Champaign, Illinois, according to the AP, is going to welcome backyard chickens. The city council voted to end a ban on keeping chickens inside Champaign city limits and ordered staff members to draw up regulations. The move will allow city residents to keep hens in their backyards for egg production. And you can see more about that at the News Gazette's website and WHBF's website. And a man died in a Champaign County grain bin. In Sydney, Illinois, a 55-year-old man died after an accident in a central Illinois grain bin. Firefighters say the man was working at Premier Cooperative when the accident took place. An autopsy is being conducted, or maybe has been by now. And according to USA Today, the immigration overhaul passed by the U.S. Senate could put a big squeeze on the budgets of state and local governments. The proposal does not help states pay for costs incurred by required policy changes, including ramped-up English classes and greater access to public hospitals and health clinics. Quote, potentially we are going to create a financial catastrophe for states and localities, unquote, said Sherry Steisel, senior federal affairs counsel and human services expert at the National Conference of State Legislatures. Quote, the state will end up with the cost and consequences of the federal decision-making and very little resources to rely on to make the difference, unquote. The Senate drafted this year's immigration bill after several bruising fights over federal spending. The result is a shortage of funding. Previous immigration packages included substantial money to help states pay for new costs. The last major rewrite of the country's immigration laws in 1986, for example, doled out $4 billion. Even before adjusting for inflation, that is 80 times as much as the $50 million in this year's Senate package. The $4 billion in the 1986 bill helped states defray costs for providing health care, English classes, public benefits, and civics classes that were necessary as a result of the immigration overhaul. It enabled 3 million unauthorized immigrants to stay in the country legally. You can read more about that at usatoday.com. And according to foxbusiness.com, jobless claims have taken a bigger than expected fall. The number of Americans filing new claims for jobless benefits dropped more than expected last week due to its lowest level in 4 months, a possible sign that hiring could pick up in this month. Initial claims for state unemployment benefits fell by 24,000 to a seasonally adjusted 334,000, the Labor Department said. Readings for jobless claims can be volatile in July because many factories closed to retool during the period, and it's difficult for government to adjust the data for seasonal swings because the shutdown schedule varies from year to year. You can read more about that at foxbusiness.com/economy. And have a great evening. Stay tuned for weather after this on NewsView. Here's your News View weather forecast for the weekend of July 19th, 20th, and 21st, 2013. Friday night, 72 degrees for low with thunderstorms likely. Saturday, a high of 86 degrees with thunderstorms likely. Saturday night, partly cloudy skies and 63 degrees for the low. Sunday, 83 and sunny, and Sunday night, 67 with a chance of thunderstorms. And that's your Central Illinois weather forecast. I'm Michael Badger, and stay tuned for the rest.